This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. The name Miriam Bergen may not be familiar to many Winnipeggers, but that is about to change. Bergen, who died in January, just left behind one of the largest charitable donations this city, and indeed this country, has ever seen. CBC's Bartley Kivas reports.
$500 million.
The Winnipeg Foundation just received the largest charitable donation ever made by a person in Canada. The late Miriam Bergen has bequeathed a gift that includes all the shares in Appleton Holdings. Founded by her parents, Ruth and Martin Bergen, Appleton owns 27 residential and commercial properties in Winnipeg, including this seniors' home in North Kildonan, this apartment building in St. Vital, and these lofts in downtown Winnipeg, all soon to belong to Canada's oldest community foundation.
I always knew that her and her parents gave back to the community in many different ways, but I myself had no idea just how large of an impact they could make in Winnipeg.
It'll take time to determine precisely how much of an impact as the Winnipeg Foundation works out the details of absorbing $500 million.
This comes at a time when often we feel that, maybe there's not much love in the world, but I have to tell you, there is a lot of love in this world.
Once the legalities and logistics are figured out, this donation comes with no strings attached.
It shows a real confidence in the Community Foundation to assess, well, what are the needs of the community.
The Winnipeg Foundation has been around since 1921. It's the second oldest community foundation in North America, after one in Cleveland. Miriam Bergen's gift will eventually allow the Winnipeg Foundation to spend millions more every year on grants. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Parties, family gatherings, and holiday school concerts. This year, that is all happening again, even as the Winnipeg Children's Hospital Emergency Department sees unprecedented numbers driven by respiratory viruses. Tonight, the CBC's Elena Cole looks at how people can celebrate while still trying to slow the spread of viruses this cold and flu season.
Here you go.
Sincerely, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Kyle Mason is getting ready. This year, the North End Community Christmas Party is back on. It hasn't happened since COVID hit.
After a couple of years of doing a toy drive and handing out food gift cards, we're really looking forward to being able to host people again at the actual event. And so it's always been a fantastic event in the years past, and we're expecting it to be similar again this year.
This holiday season, there aren't any restrictions to slow the spread of COVID-19, but there is concern about respiratory viruses, including the flu. The Children's Hospital Emergency Department continues to see what they're calling unprecedented numbers of sick kids. This month, they saw 181 cases of influenza. That's 4.5 times what they saw in November of 2019. Yesterday alone, close to half of the 174 kids coming in had influenza symptoms.
So if you look at my hand here, the curve for influenza is like this. Okay, so it's going up very, very, very straight. In previous years, it's more like this, and we're anticipating that we're going to hit a higher peak and we're going to have a slow runoff. So our season is going to last longer. It's going to peak higher. And it's peaking, and we're getting there fast.
But Dr. Elizabeth Doyle is not calling for school concerts and events to be canceled. She is urging people to get the flu shot, stay home when sick, sanitize, and wear a mask when it's inside and it's crowded.
If people use the public health measures widely, I'm not as worried about the impact. I think that if people use them wisely, I think we'll manage. If people don't use them or are unwise in using them, then I think we'll run into trouble.
Kyle Mason says they're taking precautions, including looking at how to cohort so not everyone is together at once, and requiring masks when people aren't eating.
We just want to be as healthy and as safe as possible. We don't want to cause any harm.
He says it's a simple way to look after each other. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Transit Plus riders say they're waiting hours on hold when they call to try to book a ride. Winnipeg City Councillors heard from advocates calling for improvements to the service today. CBC's Cameron McLean joins us now live from the newsroom to tell us more about this. Cameron, just how bad are these wait times right now?
The city's website says wait times at the Transit Plus call center are over 2 hours long. Earlier today, I spoke to Peter Tong. He uses Transit Plus, which used to be called Handy Transit, and he has to carry his phone around while he waits. He also says he tries to minimize the number of times he calls and books multiple trips at a time.
Which means my whole week has to be planned a week ahead, and it takes away a great deal of the flexibility. So not only has wintertime brought the fact that I can't jump in my power chair and troop off to the mall or whatever, I have to plan my entire life 7 days in advance.
Cameron, what's causing these long wait times?
The city says their call center is short-staffed. They have 5 vacant positions out of a total of 22. The chair of the Public Works Committee says Transit Plus isn't the only department experiencing shortages.
I don't think it's an unknown secret anywhere that there's a challenge getting employees, so that's a problem. Modernizing and improving it so we can use technology to book appointments. I'm really supportive of that.
Transit Plus has asked the city to hire 2 to 3 more full-time staff to bring down the wait times.
What else? Is there anything else the city could do to improve the system?
I also spoke to Patrick Stewart from the Independent Living Resource Center. He wants the city to bring in an online booking system that would eliminate the need for calls.
A web portal or a mobile app so that a user doesn't have to call in, that they can enter 2 addresses, a time that they want to depart or a time that they want to arrive, which is a technology that's not new. Many other cities use it, and we're familiar using that to book taxi cab rides or Uber.
The city is currently preparing a request for proposals for a contractor to launch an app-based on-request transit system. This contractor would also provide an online booking system for Transit Plus. That new system likely won't be in place until next September at the earliest.
Cameron McLean reporting live tonight from the newsroom. Thanks for this, Cameron. Weather specialist Marjorie Dowhos joins us this evening.
Hi there, Janet.
Hello there, Marjorie.
Well, we have some strong winds.
Yes, we do.
That are happening right now. Have you had a chance to take a look outside?
Earlier today, and I just noticed, as always, that the wind makes everything feel colder, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It also can be a factor when it comes to frostbite. I'll get to that in just a moment, but first I want to talk about an advisory that's been issued for Lakes Manitoba and Winnipeg. There is a high effect wind advisory that's been issued. This is for the south shore of Lake Manitoba, and then Gimli to the west and to the eastern side of Lake Winnipeg. You can expect to see some strong wind gusts, and because of that, that could result in some very high waves, 5 feet or higher. And those waves, too, could pose a risk of ice pileup if you are on those vulnerable shores there. So again, that's the south basin of Lake Manitoba, west of Lake Winnipeg, and east of Lake Winnipeg, the Victoria Beach area. And you're going to see that here in this graphic, just how strong the winds are. So we're seeing a north-northwest wind right now, and it will continue to pick up this evening. Gusts could be as strong as 50 kilometers per hour in the north, as strong as 70. This wind, though, will be strong Wednesday morning and then start to diminish in the afternoon. Thursday, we've got some very light wind. Conditions are clearing out as well. And then we're going to be tracking the next system that's going to be walking through here. So here's a look now at the satellite radar. Let's take a closer look here to the south because we are seeing some light snow and blowing snow right now in Winnipeg. So we've got some flurries here in the south. We still have some snow up in the north, but the snowfall warning for the central and northern parts of the province has come to an end. Futurecast now. I'm going to show you this. So Here's the system, that low pressure center that brought that snowfall warning to the central and northern parts of the province. It will start to taper off tonight. And then on Wednesday, late in the day, you can see this. We're going to get a little bit of clearing to a mix of sun and cloud tomorrow afternoon. Thursday is going to start off mostly cloudy. And then here's the next system that I'm going to be tracking. This could bring some snow to central and the southwestern corner of the province starting late on Thursday. We're going to let this roll through, and then we're expecting snow here in Winnipeg overnight Thursday and into Friday. Taking a look now at the current conditions in Winnipeg, we've got some very windy conditions out there. Northwest gusting 30 to 50. Wind chill feels like -13 out there. It is -5. That light snow continuing. Tonight, blowing snow and light snow. Northwest wind could gust to 60. That blowing snow, that strong wind will continue tomorrow morning. Of note, too, that wind chill could feel like -23, so you maybe want to bundle up or start that vehicle before you head out tomorrow morning. Looking at a daytime high of -11 under a mix of sun and cloud, and the wind should start to diminish by the afternoon. Long-range forecast, so a little bit of clearing, chance of a flurry overnight between Thursday and Friday. Snow on Friday, high of -14, and then a high of -17 on Saturday under a mainly sunny sky.
Weather update is brought to you by Home Equip, your trusted local source for Pride Mobility scooters. From sales to rental and repair, our team is here to serve you.
We began this evening's newscast with the story of Miriam Bergen's extraordinary gift to the Winnipeg Foundation. This is Giving Tuesday, a day meant to focus attention on the importance of philanthropy. Earlier this afternoon, I spoke with the president and CEO of United Way Winnipeg, who says every little bit really does count. Connie Walker, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
What are you seeing in terms of need in Manitoba this Giving Tuesday?
There is a lot of need in our communities, and we gather a lot of insight in talking with our agency partners, but we also have 211 Manitoba, and on average every week now there's about 400 Manitobans calling 211. They're reaching out for help, and the top calls to 211 are for food, for mental health and addiction support, and for housing. So there are a lot of families really, really strained right now.
What do you say in response to that when people call 211?
Well, we're so fortunate to have 211 in Manitoba, thanks to United Way donors in the province of Manitoba. When people call, their calls are answered by service navigators, and service navigators do all they can to link people up with local resources to get the help that they may need. And so there can be a whole range of resources in a community, and these service navigators are working to ensure the right service at the right time is provided.
How many member agencies are there with United Way?
United Way donors are now supporting a network of over 125 organizations across Winnipeg. So you can think about a family resource center in Transcona, a youth drop-in and programming agency in St. Vital, the Canadian Mental Health Association closer to downtown. Really, from all corners of our city, United Way donors have a network of agencies they're supporting. It really creates a safety net, if you will, for all of us.
Does United Way take money off the top of a donation?
No, we don't. We are so fortunate to have a grant from the province of Manitoba that covers our fundraising and administration costs. So 100% of gifts to United Way go to the community.
It has been such a stressful number of years with COVID-19 and all the changes there, the upheaval with businesses, and now rising inflation. What are you seeing in terms of donations?
Janet, I would describe this as the perfect storm. So in terms of need, we are seeing more families tip into crisis. So the demand in terms of supports has grown, and our agencies are talking about that all the time. At the same time, because of inflation, people who may like to give are not in a position to give. And so it is an incredibly difficult time to see strain on both sides. This is really a time when community needs to rally, and those of us who are in a position to do something step up to give what we can. It's also a time to be reminded that every single gift is going to make a difference, even the smallest of gifts. And when we combine these gifts united, we can really have a big impact on people's lives.
If someone is listening and can't afford to give, is there another way they can help?
Oh, you know what? This is Giving Tuesday, just a reminder of generosity and a reminder that generosity comes in many forms. Donations, of course, the gift of dollars makes a huge difference, but also the gifts of time and talent. I think about our own Kilts for Kids program and the need right now for children's winter parkas and boots. So there are all kinds of ways to engage in our community and help each other out during the most difficult of times.
Connie Walker from United Way Winnipeg, thank you so much for taking the time today to talk with us.
Oh, thank you so much for spreading the importance of generosity.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can go back there, watch newscasts, stay up to date whenever you like for local news, whenever it fits your schedule. You'll see our people who are fabulous under 40. Yeah, lots of stuff. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We have a little bit of good news tonight for your pocketbook. At least it looks that way. Yes, electricity rates will be likely going up next year, but it looks like they won't be going up as high as we were first told they would be. The CBC's Ian Fraze joins us now live in the newsroom to explain what I just tried to talk about. What's the reason for this, Ian?
Janet, every year the government takes money from Manitoba Hydro to pay for water and to guarantee its debt. But the province recently decided to cut those fees. This means Hydro will get to keep more of its money for itself, which will help with reducing debt. And it also means Hydro doesn't need to raise your electricity bill as high. Hydro is requesting a 2% increase in electricity rates for each of the next 2 years. That's lower than the 3.5% increase originally requested. Cameron Friesen is the minister responsible for Hydro.
Things just got a lot easier for both Hydro and for ratepayers of Hydro, because by virtue of the fact that the government is leaving almost $190 million per year more with Hydro, payments that the NDP hiked over a series of years, that means that Hydro has that ability to both make that payment to debt. It will, by virtue of these changes, effectively hit those debt equity ratio targets.
The NDP says if they're elected in the election next year, they will freeze electricity rates, but the party hasn't explained how they will make that happen.
Bottom line here is the PCs are raising Hydro rates again. And we think that they should have taken the common sense step and, with this initiative, frozen your Hydro rates. Given the cost of living that everyone's dealing with right now, I think.
Remember, it is up to the Independent Public Utilities Board to determine what electricity rates will be, but Hydro's requests will hold some weight.
Ian, there's another story that a lot of people are concerned about in this city. There's a nonprofit seniors housing complex across the street from where I'm sitting now on Portage Avenue, which could be sold to an Alberta firm. But Lions Place supporters are very worried that this Alberta firm could raise their rent. So they're stepping up before that happens. What exactly are they asking for, Ian?
Exactly, they're asking for is a 5-year moratorium on rent increases before Lions Place at 610 in Portage here in Winnipeg can be sold. Building supporters are hoping that this will buy them some more time, and in the meantime, they can convince the government to pursue some legislative changes to make the selling of nonprofit homes a lot tougher, like we have in Quebec. Tom Sims says his mother lives at Lions Place.
We think this is a real moment of truth for this provincial government. It's a fairly basic decision. Is this government going to be standing up for the suits and developers, or are they going to be standing up for seniors and nonprofit housing sector?
Sims was speaking there in front of a former Manitoba housing building in downtown Winnipeg that was sold and has since been converted to luxury suites. Regarding this Lions Place matter, the Families Minister Rochelle Squires says she is working on ensuring a plan to ensure that the housing remains affordable for residents. Janet.
Thank you for this, Ian. The CBC's Ian Fraze reporting live tonight. With as much as 1/3 of Ukraine plagued by power disruptions, NATO is offering more non-lethal aid. NATO foreign ministers are meeting in Romania, and they're promising ongoing support to get Ukraine through what could be a deadly winter. CBC's Chris Brown has the story.
Much of Kyiv is still in darkness. Electricity and water are intermittent. Russia released new footage of its jets preparing for yet more bombing runs on Ukraine, as it makes no secret that its intention is to destroy the country's means to stay warm and keep the lights on. And so, as NATO's foreign ministers met in neighboring Romania, Ukraine's minister came with a shopping list.
So, in a nutshell, Patriots and Transformers is what Ukraine needs the most.
Patriots are arguably NATO's most advanced anti-missile system, requiring large crews and lots of training, and the answer is still maybe. Although NATO has bolstered supplies of some of the other long-range rockets Ukraine has asked for. As for more help with energy, that NATO says it will do.
We have delivered generators, we have delivered spare parts, and allies are in different ways helping to rebuild destroyed infrastructure.
We know that we will make sure that we continue to support Ukraine.
The wife of President Vladimir Zelensky, Elena, came to London to say thank you and to push for a new war crimes court to punish the Russian leadership after Ukraine wins.
The world will be able to thank Britain for not only helping to stop evil on the battlefield, but also for helping to restore justice by condemning and punishing this evil.
Russian propagandists have clearly been thinking about that possibility. One of Zelensky's officials circulated this clip from Russian state TV of a panelist saying, if Russia loses, even the janitor who sweeps up the Kremlin could be charged with war crimes, and nuclear annihilation would be a better option than that.
G7 justice ministers agreed to expedite plans to set up tribunals to prosecute suspected cases of atrocities by Russian troops. But that could take years. The more immediate concern is getting Ukrainians through this winter. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
To China now, where authorities are clamping down on protests against the country's zero COVID strategy. Police and other security forces have been breaking up street demonstrations and making arrests. And in an apparent effort to head off unrest, several universities are sending students home early for the annual Christmas break. As reporter Richard Kimber tells us, health officials in China also appear to be trying to defuse the situation.
China's health authorities appear to be taking steps to try to appease the mounting level of public frustration that has resulted in unprecedented street protests in recent days, as people are fed up of this zero COVID approach in China and the impact that it's been having on their lives. Police have taken to the streets in many cities in China to try to stop these types of gatherings, but these comments from the health authorities now seem to be a major formal step on the part of government officials to try to reduce these tensions. In a briefing just a few hours ago, a leading health official in China said that lockdowns should be quick and the removal of lockdowns should also be quick. He said that the classification of any areas in China as being high risk should be based specifically and purely on scientific evidence and should not be arbitrarily imposed by local governments. That's an accusation that some protesters have made towards local government officials, that these lockdowns have been put in place and held in place purely as a means to try and win and curry favour politically with the central government, as a means of continuing to reduce and even eliminate any evidence of COVID-19 in the country. This is having wide-reaching implications for China. The zero COVID approach is well known to be hampering its economic recovery prospects and is causing international investor concern over the future of the Chinese stock market. And because of the international attention that these protests have received, it's also raising questions about how much power President Xi Jinping really has, both over the public and over his own party, when there are these types of questions suddenly surfacing at street level and at protest level in a way that has not been seen for a generation. Richard Kimber for CBC News in Hong Kong.
Canada's tight labour market has left several industries short of workers. We were talking about that earlier in the newscast. Healthcare has a very well-known staffing shortage, but there are many others as well. That has companies and governments across this country looking overseas for workers. CBC's Cody McKay shows us how Prince Edward Island is tackling the problem.
The transportation and warehousing industry has been slammed in recent years. The number of workers across the sector has almost halved. SFX Transport is having trouble finding people to drive these trucks.
We're a growing company and have plans to continue to grow over the next 5 to 10 years. So with that comes more equipment, more trucks, and we need to fill those seats and make sure the wheels are turning, pardon the pun.
It's part of an international shortage of truck drivers. To fill the gaps, SFX Transport has started looking overseas.
It's getting more and more challenging to find people locally who are, born and raised in not only Prince Edward Island but in Canada. That forces us and the provincial and federal governments to kind of recruit internationally and bring people into our province and work within the company.
Several local companies have just come back from a big recruitment campaign in Dubai, where companies and industry representatives met with hundreds of people and offered more than 130 jobs. SFX Transport says in the next 6 months, more than 20 people will be moving here to work for them.
Most cases, they come on their own and they leave their family at home until they get settled and the time is right. And then when you see, their spouse come into the office or their kids come into the office, they're getting put through the school system. It's a pretty rewarding feeling.
Officials say there's a lot of work to do to fill labor gaps, and local companies need help now.
Employers are going to need to look at that real international recruitment aspect to be able to fill a number of these vacancies that they currently have.
The Office of Immigration is working on an international recruitment strategy right now. They hope that will address some of the labor shortages in PEI's workforce. They hope to release that plan in the new year. Cody McKay, CBC News, Charlottetown.
The Canadian economy performed better than expected in the last quarter, the third quarter of the year. The latest reading from the Statistics Canada shows the gross domestic product grew at an annual rate of 2.9% in the period from July to September. That's what we're talking about. The Bank of Canada has been forecasting a 1.5% increase, so basically double that. GDP represents the value of all the products and services produced in Canada. This economic growth was led by an increase in exports driven by oil. But while the volume of exports was up, the price was down. The experts are issuing a warning. They say there are underlying signs that economic growth could start slowing as a result of rising interest rates. Economists point out that household spending also dropped for the first time in more than a year, largely due to those high interest rates, and Canadians are holding on to more of their money with inflation. The household savings rate climbed to 5.7% in the third quarter. That's up 0.6% from the second quarter. It's more than double what was happening before the pandemic. Rising interest rates are expected to trigger a more noticeable slowing of the economy in the fourth quarter. A time-honored sales practice is evolving into a new form of shopping. Auctions are gaining popularity as online shopping becomes more and more entrenched. The key reason is product returns. As consumers send back unwanted items, retailers and distributors are turning to auction houses in an effort to retain some profits and keep those goods out of the trash. CBC's Paula Duhatchuk has the story.
It's a busy Saturday at this Calgary auction house as shoppers pick up the treasures they won the week before.
I got a vacuum cleaner for $7, and that usually goes for about $78.
Hot air brush. Yeah. We got it for cheap, $11.
I think my total invoice was $160, and it retails, I'd say, probably like $700.
The reason prices are so low, many products have already been bought and returned by someone else. The owner buys returned and excess merchandise by the truckload and is always surprised by what's inside.
It's kind of like Christmas for the staff when we're opening up the skids because we don't know what to expect.
It's not the only auction house getting into this business.
We basically had the liquidator call us, saying we've got extra trailers, do you want to buy some and be in the return business? And we said yes. It's almost become a full industry of selling online stuff.
Research suggests about a third of merchandise bought online ends up being sent back. It isn't clear how much ends up in liquidation, though one retail expert says it's on the rise.
I would say over the last few months, there would be a significant percentage, much more than usual, that's off to the liquidators.
Some see this as a way to keep products out of landfill.
The retailers that we deal with are trying to be responsible and get the product out there again.
Others say seeing just how much is bought and returned leaves them with mixed feelings.
It kind of shows you what people do, how they'll buy a wedding dress and return it after they use it, where they'll take a tool and destroy it and return it anyways because they don't care.
Still, the return liquidation business is strong, and with holiday shopping season picking up, the amount of online returns will keep feeding the industry. Paula Duhatchuk, CBC News, Calgary.
You think that's dramatic? Take a look at this. These pictures are from Hawaii. Waves of lava lighting up the night sky. Amazing. It's all coming from the world's largest active volcano, Mauna Loa. It's erupting for the first time in 38 years. The Hawaiian Volcano Observatory says at this point the lava flows are not a threat to nearby communities, but authorities have not ruled out that this eruption could become dangerous. Canadian soccer star Alphonso Davies met with Canadian media today to talk about his World Cup experience, what he had to say, and the Manitoba forecast after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Soccer superstar Alphonso Davies spoke to the media in Qatar today about that historic goal he scored against Croatia on Sunday. It was the first ever by a Canadian player at a FIFA Men's World Cup. Thomas Daigle has more now on what Davies had to say.
Well, Alphonso Davies says his mother cried when she saw him in person score Canada's first ever goal at a Men's World Cup. He said, coming from a refugee camp, moving to Canada, and ultimately performing at this level on the biggest stage for men's soccer in the world, well, it moved his mother to tears. He also spoke about that missed penalty kick in Canada's Game 1 against Belgium. He said he didn't lose any sleep on it. Of course, he did replay that moment in his mind several times, but he said it didn't last long because, as he's saying now, it's always a 50-50 chance when it comes to a penalty kick, and he doesn't want to dwell on it. Ultimately, he says he's having a great time here at the World Cup, still pinching himself, and he says Team Canada will go out Thursday and face Morocco as if it is their first game with just as much to win or lose.
The motivation is there, playing, just being at the walk-up is motivation enough for this team. And each and every time we step on the pitch, we bring our motivation, we bring our fight to every game. Knowing that we're not making it to the next round, that's motivation to us to at least go out there and try to get something from this game. And knowing Morocco needs to win the game to move on, and we're not going to make it easy. We're going to go out there like it's the first game of the tournament, and play as hard and as strong as possible.
Well, this was the first time Davies came out and spoke to the assembled Canadian media here at Canada's base camp in Salal outside Doha. He was asked why it took him so long to come speak to the media and by extension to the Canadian public 48 hours after he scored that historic goal. He said, yes, it was a historic moment, but ultimately the team lost the match. And he didn't want to dwell so much on that goal, didn't want all the focus on the goal. He knew the team was effectively in mourning, and he said he felt devastated after that loss, and that's where his mind was after Sunday's game against Croatia. Now he is focused on Thursday's match against Morocco, and even already talking about the success he anticipates Canada will have in 2026 when the World Cup is co-hosted by Canada. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Salal, Qatar.
Our weather specialist Marjorie Dowhos returns. We're going to talk about high winds and how cold it's getting.
Yeah, so we have some very strong winds as we saw in the last weather segment there. And wind chill is a value when winds are that strong. Plus, I mean, it is late November.
It is.
Getting into December. I'm going to also throw it out there that there is the possibility of a polar vortex.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
Yes.
You have to remind me what that is, but I know it's bad.
Yes,
Polar air, it's cold.
Winter in Manitoba is here. Right now in the province, well, we're seeing some light snow in Winnipeg right now. That blowing snow continues. We've got the flurries, currently -5 in Winnipeg right now. With the wind chill, feels like -11. So we've actually seen the snow end in Brandon. You're under a mostly cloudy sky right now at -10. So the snow is working its way from west to east. We are seeing some snow in Portage at -8, -7 in Pinawa right now, also -7 in Sprague. The snow continues up in the north, -15 right now in the Paw, -17 for you in Flin Flon, also -17 at this hour in Thompson. We've got some snow and blowing snow in Churchill at -18. Northwestern Ontario, well, you're also looking at some snow tonight. Looking at lows around -9 in Kenora and Fort Francis, -10 in Red Lake. We're looking at snow here and blowing snow through the Red River Valley. Looking at 2 centimeters of snow in Steinbach, a low of -13, -13 as well in Emerson. Light snow and blowing snow here in Winnipeg, a low of -12. Something I should mention too, because we are seeing some stronger winds tonight, some wind gusts. That means wind chill values could feel more like in the mid -20s. -16 overnight in Brandon. That snow has already ended for you. 2 more centimeters of snow in Dauphin. 2 more centimeters of snow in Swan River, a low of -10. The snow continues up north. Snow ending overnight in the Paw and Flin Flon, lows of -22 and -24. Because of the strong winds, that wind chill value will feel more like it's in the -30s. So of course, when it is that frigid, you also have to think about the fact that there is the risk of frostbite. Blowing snow in Churchill, low of -22 tonight. So tomorrow, strong winds continue, and same thing with those wind chill values, still feeling like it's in the -30s. So frostbite, risk of frostbite, still a possibility. Clearing out in Thompson, a high of -22. In the southwestern corner of the province, well, you're looking at a clearing sky by the afternoon to a mix of sun and cloud. High of -13 in Brandon. We're looking at some morning flurries as well as some blowing snow. That wind will start to diminish by the afternoon, and that sky will clear out to a mix of sun and cloud. -12, the high in Steinbach. You're expecting -9 in Pinawa. That snow ending by the afternoon. Northwestern Ontario, well, you're also looking at some more flurries tomorrow. Highs around -8, and we're looking at a high of -7 in Dryden. But again, factor in That wind chill will feel more like -20. I'll have your extended forecast coming up in just a little bit.
Thank you, Marjorie. A special class in Edmonton is giving kids with disabilities the chance to express themselves through dance. This program offers students a creative outlet for their emotions and improves strength and self-esteem. CBC's Emily Fitzpatrick stopped by a class to take a look.
9-year-old Malcolm Coles looks forward to his dance class all year.
He doesn't have to be different in this class. He's just a kid dancing.
Dance Without Limits lets its students do just that. Over 12 weeks, these young dancers learn to move and express themselves in any way they want. And all that hard work comes together with a final recital.
I think it's really important for disabled kids to get a chance to just feel joy in their bodies, and that's what he gets to do here. He gets to be a kid who loves to dance, and he's supported in the ways that his body needs to be supported.
The program is a partnership between Cerebral Palsy Alberta and Ballet Edmonton. Classes are led by a dance instructor and a physical therapist to ensure these students are in great hands.
And all of those children that are coming here today, they love dance. And here we are trying to provide for them adapted dance classes, but at the same time a lot of fun, but also a lot of physical activity.
Many are shy in the beginning, but each week their demeanor shifts as their self-confidence grows.
It's amazing to see the transformation. They don't see their differences or disabilities. They just know that they're in a dance class and they're enjoying movement. And you know, the music is a big part of it, and it enables the right brain to kind of help the left brain and some of that coordinative stuff come together.
The program is still small, offering just 2 courses, but the hope is it will expand to bring movement to as many special children as possible. Emily Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Edmonton.
Still ahead, what can Winnipeg learn from other places about how they're reducing homelessness? After the break, we're going to hear from a group in Toronto. They say they found success in modular housing. That's something the new mayor here in Winnipeg wants to try. We'll tell you more about it after the break. CBC Manitoba is looking at homelessness in our province and how we might do a better job of housing people. In Toronto, one nonprofit has found success using modular housing. Riley Lachuk spoke with Kagan Harris with the neighborhood group in Toronto to find out what that could look like.
Thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So maybe first of all, just tell me about what these modular houses look like.
So the modular housing sites are unique, especially the ones that we operate in the city of Toronto. We operate 2 buildings. They're the first 2 sites in the city of Toronto that have been built this way. When you look at it, when it's fully completed, when you tour the site, it looks and operates like any regular apartment building. However, what's unique about it is the way that it's built. It's built in different pieces off-site from the actual construction site, and then they're shipped to it. And it's kind of, it kind of sounds silly, but it's, when you actually see it in action, it looks like Lego pieces coming together. One section fits here, another section fits here, and it really is kind of like that Lego style of building, putting together a building. But then once it's completed, it operates and functions and looks just like any other apartment building would.
How has this housing development affected the homeless rate in your community?
Well, what I can say with certainty is after, we have 100 different units within these 2 buildings. And once we got these buildings fully tenanted, which really didn't take that much time, just under 6 months since from opening, that's 100 people who were taken off the street and no longer experience street homelessness. And now they're gaining access to support services such as education support, employment support, all kinds of supports that they didn't have before the actual opening of these buildings. So it's really had a significant impact on the population that we serve within these buildings. And it has, reduce the number of people who are experiencing street homelessness. And the expectation is the more of these houses that do open, or more of these apartments that do open, the more people will be able to take it off the streets and cease to experience street homelessness.
This is an idea that's come up here in Winnipeg as well. How can a city like this, I guess, sort of mimic this idea or use some of what you guys have learned in order to replicate that here?
The recommendation to Winnipeg would be to just do it. It's, once you've identified a site and it meets the criteria, it's a very quick turnaround for building these sites. The city council approved this project in April of 2020. Construction started. We were brought on in September of 2020. Construction started around August, September, and we opened the first building in December and the second building about a month later. So it can happen very quickly. It just comes down to just having the drive to do it.
Is there any particular moment or story that stands out to you when you think of, modular housing, not typically something that you think of when you're working on a problem like homelessness?
One of the things that we see on a regular basis is when we introduce new tenants to their housing. So they come in, they sign their lease, they get a tour of the property, and then they get given their keys and they get a tour of their unit. It's not uncommon to see people just kind of become overwhelmed with joy. We've had people collapse to the ground in tears. They finally have a place to call home. It's a place that's finally theirs. We've heard countless success stories of people who have gone on to, gainful employment following getting getting into this modular housing site. We have people who've decided to go back to school, and we've given them the resources they need to access school. So it's really just been, from our experience as a nonprofit operator with our partners in Coda Health, it's been a very, very positive experience. And there have been so many wonderful stories within our tenant population of people really benefiting from the impact of these buildings.
Well, I want to thank you for taking some time to speak with me today, Kagan. I really appreciate it, and thanks for sharing some of the stories.
My pleasure.
Your 7-day forecast and daily lift are still to come. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
Make what you can of this holiday season. Make the season merry. Make the season joyous. Make the season hopeful. Make the season kind. CBC is devoting one day of programming in support of Harvest Manitoba. Live music and inspiring stories that will make the season of giving about giving. Watch and listen to Make the Season Kind, Friday, December 2nd.
So looking at some snow tomorrow morning and blowing snow, and then clearing out by the afternoon, high of -11, and then the next system rolls in overnight between Thursday and Friday. Snow on Friday and high of -14, clearing out on Saturday and Sunday, highs of -17. And Janet, I told you about a polar vortex. Yeah, it looks like it's settling in for the start of next week.
-20, -22 as highs.
As highs.
Aye.
Yes. The polar vortex is here. Well, Janet, ever find yourself getting nostalgic for the days when it was warmer and you could visit a Blockbuster store to handpick your favorite movie?
Or get a bunch of movies because you're never going out again.
Yeah.
Well, now apparently so many people are nostalgic. There's actually a newly opened pop-up Blockbuster bar in Los Angeles. Here's your Daily Lift.
All right, welcome to the Blockbuster experience.
Wow, you can jump back in time. Doesn't that look familiar?
Oh.
Those blue and yellow signs everywhere. You need to sign up, apparently, Marjorie, for your Blockbuster membership card. They play movies as people wander around, but apparently inside the movie boxes, you won't find the DVD or the VHS movie. You find, look, cocktail options.
Oh, even better.
And if that's not enough, there's retro video games and the popcorn.
Oh my
You
goodness.
can help yourself to the popcorn. That's nice.
Okay, so the plan is, how do we get there? And how do we do this, Janet?
Okay, retro. We'll find a retro airline. And if we're missing tomorrow night, find us there. Have a great evening.
Good night.